just a little bit further up the road. Simon Beament there, a little bit scrappy in the background there, loses some time. Brian Long, I think, is the next car through in the background, our Class 4 leader. A number of different classes in this series, from Class 1 for the more powerful cars and the 2-litre turbos, for example, down to Class 4 for the more standard specification cars, and there you'll find a few of the Escorts, or should I say Fiestas, in that class. So up the hill comes Nigel Craig with Jeff Windsor tracking him. These two both keen to make up more places before the end of this race. Round North Bend they go, and there is Andy Pike then, our 4th position man, who's about 4 or 5 car lengths away from Simon Gent.
The gap between these two cars has increased somewhat since we last saw this battle. Andy Pike was right on the tail of Simon Gent a short time ago, but Gent has put in some good lap times over the last few circuits and managed to stretch away from Andy Pike. So Pike with some work to do. Here is the number 21 car of Alan Willett in the XR2 Fiesta, a bit further down the order. But Gent's heavily tuned car, not immediately obvious from the exterior, the kind of everyday exterior of the Ford car, but that's a very powerful machine, and it's staying in front of the Mark II Escort. A little bit smoky it was though through the North Bend there. Hopefully that's not going to spell some problems for later on in the race. The pace is still there at the moment for Simon Gent though in the yellow machine. Malcolm Wise in his Sierra Sapphire just fending off the attentions of Steve Horner, and these two have swapped places, haven't they, as well, since we last saw them. Jeff Windsor now in front of Nigel Craig.
So round Chessons Drift they go then, and on board now with our race leader Craig Rayner, and he's starting to come up to some traffic then, and I think that looks to be the Alan Willett car that will be the first to be negotiated by the race leader. Don't forget, it's only a very short lap here at Liddon Hill, exactly 1 mile in length. A lap time is around about 46 seconds for the quickest drivers in this Blue Oval Saloon series for the pre-2004 Fords. And a look further down the order here, you've got 3 of the Fiestas. You've got Philip Bendel there in number 5, you've got Tim Mizzen in number 13, and Joanne Gordon in the 29 car as well. Down the hill they come, Joanne Gordon looking to make a move on Tim Mizzen, the stock hatch racer, but not able to do so at Paddock Bend.
Gordon though looks at that a little bit quicker than Tim Mizzen at the moment. Mizzen is in Class 4, Joanne Gordon in Class 3, and Gordon just trying to pick her opportunity here to get past Tim Mizzen safely but as quickly as possible. They're going to draw alongside each other here on the approach to Devil's Elbow. There will be the outside line though for Joanne Gordon, unless she can nip across the nose of Tim before the corner, and she can indeed. So the white car is now in front of that lime green machine of Tim Mizzen. So the next person on Joanne's list is the car of Philip Bendel. Philip also in Class 3, similar to Joanne, so the red and yellow car may offer a slightly more stern challenge for her. As we look at this third place car, still Simon Gent, the Ford car managing to stay safely out in front ahead of Andy Pike, and Pike equally at a safe distance away from Malcolm Wise.
There goes Brian Long, stalwart of the Ford Saloon Car Championship, of course, and very much a front runner as far as the championship was concerned. That category, well, now pretty much defunct really. Many of the drivers moved across to the Blue Oval Saloon Series that is running this season as part of the Classic Thunder Championship run by the Classic Touring Car Racing Club, but numbers are increasing as the season goes on, and the hope is that standalone races can be run at all meetings for the Blue Oval Saloon Series for next season. Andy Pike there keeping Malcolm Wise at bay. Wise was another front runner, of course, when most of the Ford Saloon Car Championship races last season. That was in his Escort. He's now switched to this Sapphire so as to be eligible for this Blue Oval Saloon Series. It pretty much outlawed the big, powerful four-wheel drive cars that dominated in Ford Saloons. And so Wise racing this particular car, but for the moment unable to find a way past Andy Pike, and now the Jeff Windsor car closing in as well.
Yeah, the two Sierras getting quite close here. So Malcolm Wise, who has been able to just concentrate on the windscreen of his machine and just focus on Andy Pike's rear bumper, will now have to be wary of the white Sierra closing in. So attack and defend at the same time. Now here's Craig Rayner, not too far away from the two Horners that have swapped places now. It's James ahead of Steve. So I wonder whether Steve has got a slight problem in his older Fiesta, or whether James has just found that extra pace mid-distance in this race. So the newer shaped car now in front, and Craig Rayner, as you can see, that a little bit further down the road, but it won't be too long before he's right on the tail of these machines and needing to lap them. Steve Weatherly also not too far away in second position after that early mistake from the off. He dropped a few positions and has taken some time to get back up to second place, which is where he stayed ever since. Craig Rayner just too far in front at the moment for Steve, though, as they head up the hill towards North Bend, and Rayner now will have to start to think about which side he's going to go around these Fiestas. Now sensibly Steve Horner stays out of the way at North Bend there, so that Craig Rayner can sneak past.
Just looking at the lap time, Steve Horner's done a 49.3 compared to James's 50.7 as their best laps of the race so far. So Steve actually slightly the quicker. Perhaps he made a mistake somewhere out of our sight that caused him to drop behind James Horner there. Here's a busy piece of tarmac now. You've got Simon Gent coming up the hill towards us with Andy Pike, Malcolm Wise and Jeff Windsor not too far behind. But then you've got that Philip Bendall and Tim Mizzen scrap going on there as well. So those slower cars just being swamped here by the more powerful machinery from the upper classes. And well, hopefully they'll be able to continue their battle before the end of this race. But for the moment, they're just trying to keep out of the way.
So Philip Bendall is wary of these quicker cars coming through, and fortunately they've all found him at quite a wide section of this Liddon Hill track, so they can stay out of the way safely. And also Alan Willett is doing likewise as well. Good to get those quicker cars past him before Devil's Elbow, and that's just about been successful, it looks like, as the blue flags are still being waved. Jeffrey Windsor sneaks by, and that's closed this battle up a little bit as well, hasn't it, for third, fourth and fifth, although Simon Gent now stretching his legs again, but and seventh position I should say as well, third, fourth, fifth and sixth place, I beg your pardon, with the two Sierras fifth and sixth overall. And the Fiestas now have been bunched up as well, with Willett and Bendall side by side at the top of the hill there, heading down towards Paddock Bend. But this is a great scrap now for fourth, fifth and sixth places. Andy Pike under some pressure from Malcolm Wise and Jeffrey Windsor. There's the three Fiestas coming out of Paddock Bend as well and across the start-finish line. But these Sierras that are pretty much matching the pace of Andy Pike's Mark II Escort can effectively go for a two-pronged attack here. Wise possibly up the inside and Windsor around the outside.
Again, looking at the lap times, it looks to me as if the slower car of the three is actually Andy Pike on a 49.1. Both Wise and Windsor have broken into the 48-second bracket. But leader Craig Rayner, well, he's done a 47.3 compared to Steve Weatherly's 47.2. Both of those lap times set on the fifth lap of the race. As it happens on the last lap now, Craig Rayner celebrating already, obviously waving to his team there by the side of the track, but only now does he come to take the checker flag to win for the second time today in the Blue Oval Saloon Series. He won the main race earlier on, which was restarted of course after a red flag incident. Still this battle going on to decide fourth place. Second has already gone through in the shape of Steve Weatherly, but fourth, who's it going to be? Looks like Andy Pike is just about going to be able to hold on from Malcolm Wise and Jeff Windsor, and there you can see Simon Gent just going through in third position as well, with Brian Long caught up in the middle of that sandwich as well. Well, the crowd showing their appreciation after a pretty good race and a great drive from Craig Rayner to take the win by around about 5 seconds. Let's just get confirmation of that. There we go, 5.358 seconds, the exact margin over Steve Weatherly, although Weatherly was slightly quicker. Simon Gent third and Andy Pike fourth, with Malcolm Wise and Jeff Windsor completing the top six. Nigel Craig was also unlapped. James Horner, Steve Horner and Simon Beament all a lap down on this 1 mile Liddon Hill circuit. Alan Willett in the end was 2 laps down, but Joanne Gordon, Brian Long, Philip Bendall and Tim Mizzen all completed 18 laps. And good to see that all 15 cars finished the race. And the Blue Oval Saloon Series, backed by Register Race, continues at Brands Hatch.
2 out of 2, the boss, Craig Rayner. Good day for you.
Very good day. Yeah, really pleased. The cars just performed brilliantly. It's been a good second race.
And just really went, I guess, according to your plan, similar to race 1.
Yeah, very similar. There was still, race 1 had a bit of an issue with still no rear end grip. But we did some changes and had a think and a play, as you do, and we've performed brilliantly. It's done really well.
And how much time before your next round?
I think we've got 4 weeks now, and then we're out of Brands Hatch, so that should be really good.
Simon, congratulations, another class win and a podium, so not a bad way to finish your racing day here at Lyddon.
Fantastic weekend. It couldn't have been any better. 2 class wins and 2 podiums, which is the best position we've done all year. So I'm really made up. It's a fantastic weekend.
Back here at Lyddon Hill for the penultimate race of the day. It's the Track and Race Cars Magazine Pre-93 Saloon Car Championship, and a great grid of cars being headed up by Leamington Spa man Craig Jameson in his Ford Sierra, and that man Roger Stanford again, this time out in a BMW M3. They make up the front row of the grid ahead of Len Simpson's VW Vento VR6, wonderful noise they make, and the Rover Tomcat of Anthony Wright from 1992 as well. Looking further back, you can see the Rover Vitesse of Alan Roper out for another race during the course of this weekend. At the back, we think we've got Daniel Smorton and Steve Yates, but a few additions as well in the shape of Ken Lark in his Corrado, the Lancia Fulvia of Tony Murray, and David Howard in his Escort as well.
So the starting procedure underway. The 5-second board goes up there as the green flags wave at the back of the field, and then the red lights come on in sequence, all 5 illuminated, and they go out. A little bit of creeping from Roger Stanford in the second car that he's using this weekend, the BMW. It's a good start for him though. Oh, but problems mid-pack. Big problems with 3 cars all involved there, one of which I think was Len Simpson, who started from the second row but has exited there stage right. And let's hope that they're all okay, but there is an Armco barrier there to collect them all so that they don't then rejoin the circuit and potentially collide with the runners that are still in this race. Dean Spur has been heavily delayed from the third row. He's much further down the order, as there is one of the cars in the distance that was involved in that start line accident. Marshall's running to the attendance then of the 3 vehicles involved with fire extinguishers. The rest of the field snaking its way through North Bend. So the leader is Roger Stanford, Craig Jameson in second place, and Anthony Wright in the Rover Tomcat is currently third. Yellow flag zone by the looks of things, or maybe not actually, but here's a replay of the start to see exactly what happened, Ian.
Yeah, so far so good, but look mid-pack, there you can see an impact right in the middle. Dean Spur was involved in his all-new Rover Tomcat, new car for him, and this is a different angle. The 3 cars involved were the Robert Sadler BMW 325, that's the white car, the Gorman car, the Anthony Gorman car, the red BMW, and of course Len Simpson in his VW Vento VR6. And there's basically a bit of a concertina in the middle of the pack, and the 2 red cars got fired off, and poor old Anthony Gorman just had nowhere to go.
The car that was caught in the middle of the red car sandwich was Dean Spur, and strangely enough he's got away with that incident relatively hassle-free because he's back in the race, albeit heavily delayed. That turquoise Tomcat seems to be going fairly well though at the moment. It was heavy impact though for Anthony Gorman, who collided with the Armco with just nowhere to go, and heavy damage for that BMW. Let's hope he can get it repaired in time for the next race meeting. Here's Dean Spur then with some pressure from behind. David Hickton's Capri very close to the rear bumper, although the Spur car has found some pace, so feeling no real ill effects from that start line shunt. And Dean Spur can concentrate on the car in front of him, which is the yellow Sierra of Graham Myers. They're heading up towards the left-hander at Devil's Elbow now, and sneaking through that part of the track. A smoky BMW a bit further back could well be Andy Johnson in number 72.
Rest of the field making its way through. There's Tim Scott Andrews in number 4 in the Rover Vitesse, having another race out of this weekend. Making his way up the hill then, that 1986 3.5 litre car, and just ahead of him you can see is the VW Corrado of Ken Lark, who didn't take part in the qualifying session this morning, but good to see Ken back out again. He's been doing races all over the place this year. We saw him out in some of the VAG trophy races at Cadwell Park very briefly indeed. He had some problems up there in Lincolnshire. It was just a couple of weeks ago. He's turning his way now just ahead of the number 89 car of Ken Self. That's the yellow Escort 1600, the Mark III shaped car. But here is the battle for the lead. It's Roger Stanford, and Johnny mentioned it's his second car of the weekend. It's his third, of course. He also had the BMW 2002 out in one of the earlier races as well. So Roger Stanford has not been off the podium so far this weekend, and let's see if he can continue that record in the pre-93 race. But he's got Craig Jameson snapping at his heels, and Craig Jameson has won 2 of the races so far this season in the pre-93 Touring Car Championship, but Roger Stanford has won 3, 2 at Silverstone, 1 in the wet, 1 in the dry, and the second of the 2 races at Snetterton as well. Jameson, who just locked up a little bit there, I think, won at Alton Park in the first of the races at Snetterton, and the other winner so far this season is the man who currently lies in 3rd place. That's Anthony Wright. He was triumphant at Thruxton.
There was a little bit of a lock-up, I think, for Craig Jameson, but also quite a bit of absorbent powder that's been laid down on that section of the track to mop up what Les Nash dumped down on the approach to Devil's Elbow when he went off into the gravel, and subsequently brought 2 cars into the gravel trap as well, with Andy Messam making a bit of a mess of his Mini earlier on. That fluid, though, not really an issue for this race, and it's still very tight for the lead and second place, making their way around the right. Oh, an exit though for Ken Lark, who goes straight into the Parc Ferme area there. There's a change of position, I think, for one of the escorts further down the order. That's Ken Self putting a lap on one of the Rover Vitesses, or not a lap, sorry, just overtaking him for race position. Strange to see those 2 cars that you would think the Vitesse will be significantly quicker than Ken Self, but the little escort is fighting his own and doing strongly towards the lower end of the field there. But Ken Lark, unfortunately, after problems in qualifying, has retired from the race.
Yes, disappointing that Ken Lark only managed to complete 4 racing laps in this Truck and Race Cars Magazine pre-1993 Saloon Car Series, Saloon Car Championship, I should say. Championship being led coming into this round by Ryan Gorman, as those 2 cars, the Escort and the Rover Vitesse of Tim Scott Andrews, continue to go side by side.